everywhere. Yes. Finally.
Victory.
So, yeah, it's a victory. Interesting to see what's happening on Instagram because that's definitely an experiment.
I'm
So
not sure we, I'm not sure we have sound on Instagram.
you
We
don't have sound.
certainly have picture
Why aren't you sure? Can you test it?
because I'm online in Instagram and I can't hear anything. But now it's paused.
Yeah, it should work. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, let's see. Do we have sound?
I can't
Yeah, we have sound on Instagram. Everything is fine. I hope we have sound.
Great.
I hope we have sound on Facebook and YouTube as well. It's fun today. Everybody has technical issues. By the way, it's our 50th live stream, so it's a jubilee. It's a massive thing, and
Congratulations.
yeah, and I'm not
It's
counting out.
it's also our fifth season,
Is
right?
it?
It's our fifth. Yeah,
That's great.
if we count like big guys seasons starting with September, it's our fifth season. We had 2 seasons in 2020. So yeah, but it's a lot of fun. I wanted to say that last time sound on YouTube, says Richard Minsky. Hi Richard, nice to have you here. I guess this means that there is sound. I hope. Timothy on Facebook. Hello, friends. Greeting from Vietnam. Dave Turnbull. Morning, Fox. Pasha, did you check sound on YouTube? Because well, there should be sound on YouTube.
Yes, there is sound.
I wanted to say that last time I streamed. Last Friday, and well, not this Friday, but previous Friday, and I did sort of a test stream with sorting some bookbinding tools that I recently purchased, got, found, whatever. And I had a lot of issues with sound there. I had some issues with video. I know what the problem was. The person whose fault that was will be fired. Of course, that's how we do things. No, I'm joking because it was me, of course. And next time, I hope that everything will be better. Congratulations on the 50th live stream. It's a huge effort of the team. That's absolutely true. Many thanks to Pavel for sticking with me through all of these years and through all of these live streams. This feels like an achievement, and I hope we'll have many more live streams, podcasts, whatever in the future. So yeah. A couple of more announcements. Whatever. I have already said about the 15th live stream. We're streaming today on 3 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And it may be a bit challenging to stream on Instagram. We'll see how it goes. I hope everything will be fine. Sound should be fine today, and the picture should be much better than the last time. And if you have any comments, please post them anywhere. Anywhere you want. We'll try to check everything and to answer your questions. As usual, we'd be happy to see comments where people say from where they are joining us, from which country, from which city. It's always fun to see well, people from all over the world joining the conversation. Our guest today is Dimitris Koutsipetsidis, a fellow bookbinder from Greece and fellow toolmaker. And toolmaking and new tools is something we're going to discuss today. And we'll see what else. Dimitris sent me some pictures I'll be sharing during the live stream. We'll see how it goes. And, well, as usual, we'll go with the flow. Thank you, Dimitris, for joining us today.
Happy to be with you guys. It's always a pleasure.
My co-host, Pavel Voronin, joined us from Serbia. Hi. Nice to have you here, as usual.
Hi. Serbia, not Siberia.
Yes, I'm Stepan. I'm in Windsor, UK, and I hope I'll stay in UK for long because we're pretty tired of moving from country to country already. So that's a happy beginning for our new live stream. We have some more comments on YouTube, and what else we have?
Fleet joins us from Lancaster,
Yeah,
and he can't hear us, so that's great.
perfect. Yeah, and Michelle Tolfrey also is with us. So, how should we proceed? Will you tell us some, history of these tools, how the idea came to be, what's happening?
Let's begin with the starter set that I presented in summer.
So you want me to
which
show the
is-
photos right away?
Yes, if it's possible.
Yeah, okay. I'll need a minute for that because my Windows decided to update just minutes before we started. So yeah, I didn't prepare. I've prepared everything besides the photos. So yeah, I'll need a moment.
So what tools are we talking about? Imagine that Stepan is already showing it to us. Do describe them.
Well, it's a 15 tool set, and it belongs to, in my mind, I divide the tools in two categories. Basically, the gilding tools or the hot stamping tools, let's say it that way, for most people to understand, and the task-specific tools, for example, like band nippers. So the starter set falls. Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Falls within the first category.
just give me a moment because I've lost all the. Yeah, I've lost the video. I have video on Instagram and it's really strange.
Okay, sure.
But yeah. Just a moment. No. Yeah, I lost the image from. I lost the image from Zoom, so I cannot. I can show you screen. I can do screen sharing, but the Zoom becomes black for some reason. So, Pasha, Dimitris, please stop for a moment. I'll try to fix this.
Okay. Are we streaming?
Yeah, we are streaming, and now everybody can see us. I just need to invent a way to.
Do you want me to share the images? Could it be easier?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I'll send them to you.
Okay.
Sorry about this. Zoom changed some things again. I just tested it yesterday and everything worked perfectly fine. I don't know what's happening. Maybe
it's the issue with technology. That's why I have this old piece of coal for a cell phone.
Yeah.
Anything more complex than that, yeah. Nah.
That's why you are into bookbinding tools and not cloud technologies. So.
I mean, yeah, compared to what Stepan is trying to solve now, I am basically banging rocks at my bindery.
By the way, are you still in Athens? You're still there, yeah?
Yeah, sure. In Athens.
Tell us a bit about what it's like. Is it still summer where you are?
It's always summer in Athens. Just sometimes it's a bit less summer than others. It goes like that. I mean, there are in many cases in December people are out in t-shirts. It has to go like Christmas to feel that it's a bit of cold.
I don't understand what's happening. When I start screen sharing, everything goes black. Yeah, Pasha, I'll send you the files and.
Am I still on?
Yeah.
but I look frozen.
Yes,
Yes, you look
do.
frozen. Maybe that's connection on your side.
Try disabling camera and enabling it again.
Okay.
Sorry, folks. After a pause, everything works a bit.
Yeah, not only that, but I just yesterday I tested everything, and we lost Dimitris. He'll reconnect. Okay. I just yesterday tested everything, and everything was fine, and now doesn't want.
Are you sending me the images?
Yeah, through Telegram.
Okay.
So this is fun.
Yeah,
this is a good way to to celebrate our 50th live stream.
The camera is I'm trying to fix it.
Try reconnecting perhaps. Stepan, I haven't got the images yet.
Yeah, just give it a moment.
Oh yeah, here they are.
Let's see if now.
We still don't have a picture.
Nah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I'm good.
Perfect. So, Pasha, let's try it on your side.
Let's try that. Okay, what starter set, right?
Yeah, I sorted them.
Okay. See if you can put the picture on.
Enable screen sharing, please.
Yep, just a moment. Done.
Yep. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Ah, there.
Okay.
Can you find the picture that shows the tools, the set?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
That's so beautiful. Are you sure these are tools and not like sculptures?
I'll have to.
That's an accurate observation. I mean, basically, especially with tools that represent something besides basic shapes, that's the process. It's a bit of engraving is a form of sculpting in a way, just slightly different tools.
Please give me a moment. I'll fix everything on Instagram because, well, everything is broken just a little bit, and I don't know why. Well, I have a guess why, but you can probably talk because people can see the tools, but not,
Shall I go on?
Yeah, please do. So it's these are 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. And this is a set you designed over some period, or was it a project you designed at, like you said, and how did you decide this will be the set of tools you're making? Why these tools?
Well, this one didn't have a lot of, let's say, planning, in the sense that I already had most of the tools included in the set offered in different sets. So for some reason, it didn't occur to me in the past to put all of them together in a set. So basically the circles, there is a circle set that has 5. Here you can see 3, the same with the dots, and so on and so forth. And the main addition was the 3 leaves, basically, and this made the set more complete.
And the leaves are the 3rd row from the top.
Yeah, exactly. The rest, someone can find in other sets of mine as well. Though these sets have more tools, even more tools, like more dots, more circles, more shapes, more lines. So this is a very convenient set for someone who is just starting to get into tooling. And I was mostly concerned about two things when I was thinking about this and putting it together. The first one is autonomy, and the second is retention of value. And by the first one, by autonomy, I mean that I wanted the set to offer someone the ability to create an entire design, whatever that design may be, from simple to complex, using just this set, so that they could be able to decorate a whole binding without needing extra tools. And to illustrate that, I collaborated with Nate McCall, who is very good at making ornate bindings, very, very good. And he came up with 3 designs, gradually progressing from simple to more, to more complex. I don't know if you have the pictures available, so we can show them.
Beginner?
Yeah, that's the beginner. So this is an example of what one can make using the set. And this is a very simple design. And now we're going to something that requires a lot more symmetry. The arrangement is more strict, but the visual impact is also stronger.
Could you talk us through this a bit more? For me, as someone who's never tried it, this looks complicated enough. I mean, why is this more complicated? What do you do to actually achieve this precision?
Well, it takes good planning. You have to make you have to be very accurate in your markings. You have to make everything work. One of the many difficulties in doing such a design is that you have to take a lot into account the cover's dimensions and geometry, right? So the first design, the beginner design, relies a lot more on randomness, let's say. There are certain elements that have to be placed in a symmetrical way on the cover, but there are also many things that you can do, any way you like. And it could be even less symmetrical than what we see, and it would still work. However, in the second one, everything has to be placed precisely, because if not, it will show, it will be very evident. That's why it's considered a more advanced design.
Whoa.
And then, yeah, we have something much more ornate, much more complex. And it's, as I said, it's just one example of what one can make. It could be anything really, and it also could be something more. This is basically patterns and symmetry, whereas you could have things that are more pictorial, you could say, or a more modern design. I don't know if you have that book, that binding I made with from Brothers Grimm. Yeah, here we see them all together.
You mean from one of the older live streams, or which?
No, I think I included the pictures for the starter set as well. Or was it? No, it was on the live set.
It was a leaf set, yeah.
Starter set, leaf set, and polishing tool set. I have to direct.
It will be a bit later. Yeah.
Okay. So.
By the way, sorry to interrupt you. I conquered the Instagram and everything is fine there. So I hope at least somebody will watch it on Instagram. Sorry.
Dimitris, could you perhaps say something about how much time do you think something like that would take? Because I assume it's not just the difficulty; it's also time taken. The more freehand you are, the faster you work.
Yeah, but there's also something you must also consider is what kind of tooling someone is doing. Is it just blind tooling? Are they using foil after blind tooling? Are they using genuine gold leaf? So it depends on the process as well. And also in how many elements there are. I mean, something might have randomness in it, but it might have so many decorative elements that it takes much more than a more orderly arranged design. But in many cases, you would look at, at least some hours, especially for the simple one. And these are the leaves in a close-up. And yeah, this is an example using the leaf set.
Pasha, maybe you can zoom in just a bit.
I wanted to say something more about the starter set. I said the first thing that I had in mind was autonomy, and the second was retention of value, and I wanted to comment on that as well. And by retention of value, what I mean is that I didn't want to offer a set that becomes obsolete as one's collection of tools becomes larger and more diverse, which is the case often with starting sets in many crafts. You buy some tools, and then after you get a bit better, or you get more tools, you stop using many of the first ones you got. This is not the case with the starter set or with the leaf set, because dots, leaves, circles, all those decorative elements will always have a place in a design, no matter how good you get, no matter how complex your design is. So it's a set that will be always useful, no matter if you are a beginner or an advanced bookbinder at tooling. And these are examples of the leaf set in a decoration, in a classic decoration.
And by what do you mean classic?
Classic means, this is a big topic actually, but I'll try to summarize. A classic design is anything that goes from the 19th century or earlier. When we go into the 20th century, we start having what we call modern bookbinding in a way, which means that the designs are not just decorative. They start to depict things or to make an interpretation of the book's content. Whereas this is as I said earlier, patterns and symmetry, basically.
So if you see this on the cover, there's probably also 5 raised bands. So
Probably not always the case, but yeah, quite common.
I guess that's something we discussed quite a lot on our podcasts and live streams before, because this is sort of the design that when mass media talk about bookbinding, that's what they usually present to people as an example of bookbinding, which is, well, it's good, it can be masterful, it can be interesting, but it limits the understanding of the wider audience of what bookbinding is and what bookbinding can be in the modern world, because modern bookbinding is so much more diverse and different and non-symmetric. So yeah,
indeed.
Let us check the comments for a moment, because there was a lot of happening there on YouTube. Firstly, Dave Turnbull wrote that he's from St Andrews in Scotland, but he's our regular, so it's nice to have regular viewers here. John Morrison, good morning from Wiltshire, UK. Michelle Tolfrey, Northamptonshire, UK. Turgon92, also a regular from Greece, from Athens. Richard Minsky, Stockport, New York, USA. Then Dave Turnbull wrote, the wondrous joys of modern technology. I guess that's about all the issues we had today. Well, that's going on our record. You don't have get these issues reading your book. That's definitely. It's like a meme about the ebook and old book. You don't need a battery to read an old book.
Yeah, it always remembers where you left it. You can put a page marker on it.
Yeah,
No need for fancy stuff.
Yeah. So then Michelle Tolfrey wrote pretty about all the patterns. That was when we already were discussing the patterns. Huntfleet, lovely tools. I'm so jealous. So again, if you have any questions to our guest about these tools, about the patterns, about anything regarding bookbinding, please post your comments and we'll try to answer them. If we cannot answer them, we'll keep the questions for our next guest, which is also an option. So, thank you. Sorry for the. Oh, by the way, check the links in the description. That's a good moment to tell about this as well, because we posted some links to Dimitris, to the website of Dimitris and his Facebook and Instagram. So, if you are not subscribed to Dimitris on Facebook and Instagram, please do it right now, or maybe after you end watching our live stream. And also, what else? Yeah, please check our Patreon link because, obviously, support of our patrons is important to us to continue paying for editing, research, and other things we need to do before, live stream. Anyway, sorry for the interruption, and let's move forward.
Dimitris, how would you describe this design then? It looks also pretty classic to me, but
yeah, it is. You can see quite early on some designs in the history of bookbinding, breaking from strict symmetry. But again, it's, as you can see, it's a design that's inspired by natural elements, by flowers, by leaves, by intertwining vines, and that was the staple for a very long time in the decoration of bindings. This is an example. This is a binding I made recently, and an example of the leaf set in use. Had quite some fun doing this one. I also wanted to make a comment on what Stepan said earlier about people, usually having that image of very ornate, very complex designs. And because that image is so prevalent, it's very difficult to explain when they come, asking for such a binding, that, guys, this is very, very time consuming. This is very complex. It's a very common image in people's mind, so they're not always prepared to hear that, this would be very expensive, or it would take a very, very long time to make.
Yeah,
whereas,
that's true.
Could you talk a bit about this work? I've only just noticed those shadowy figures behind the trees, so it is very much Brothers Grimm. They did write a lot about the horrors of the forest, but also the allure. I imagine getting lost there as a kid. Are these the things you were thinking about when designing this?
Well, I'm rather fond of folk tales, and the idea behind this design was that the owner wanted me to include at least some elements from the original cover of the book, the commercial edition. And so these two figures, the girl running and the, I don't know, how would you call it, like a satyr, I think it is, if I remember correctly. They were part of the original design, but I thought of including the rows of crops, of of vegetation.
Pasha, don't do that.
Okay.
How would you call it exactly? And I I really liked how they converge to the spine, and it creates a sense of volume and texture in a very specific way. As I commented when I shared it online, by making this binding, I finally began to realize a bit how classic decorations work, because it's not my strong suit. And this felt as if I unlocked something,
So Dave Turnbull on YouTube, that green binding is lovely, Dimitris, and yes, must have taken a long time. that's for sure.
It did. And you can also do very interesting things by alternating blind and gold tooling. It creates a very nice visual effect, at least I think. So this is the polishing tool. The third tool or set or whatever that I presented in summer. It's not officially available yet. I made 2 one-offs, but the people seemed to like it, and the first 2 ones went away very fast. So I'm going to add it to my standard line of tools in the near future, and it has 3 uses to the people that don't know. Okay, what is this? Why do I need it? The main use of the polishing tool, they used to be called polishing irons, but as you can see, this one is made entirely of brass, so I'm calling it a polishing tool. The main use is to crush the grain of the leather in order to create a surface that is as smooth as possible as a preparation for tooling, because that allows the binder to achieve a very clean and crisp result when it comes to tooling. Whereas if you leave the grain as is, especially if a leather has a rough grain, it's not as easy to tool, and the impressions are not as clear. So that is the primary function of a polishing tool. Now, that aside, it has also 2 other uses. The second one, I'd say, is to polish the leather. You're basically doing what I described the first time as well, but this time the goal is just the effect it has on leather, regardless of whether there's going to be decoration or how much. And that may be because someone wants to make the binding have a sheen to it, which is, can be very beautiful, or because they want to achieve an aged effect. If you see books that have been read a lot, their leather is smooth and shiny from use. And the last use of a polishing tool is on certain decorative techniques, for example, like surface gilding. They require a polishing tool. And there are others as well. There's one that's quite common here in Greece, waxing the cover. So you basically use a polishing tool. You heat it, you put it on a block of wax, and then transfer the wax on the covers and work them in the leather slowly, and it creates a very nice effect. So it's a very niche tool, but a tool that you can't do without when you want to do certain things.
I during this previous live stream where I sorted some of the tools I recently bought, there was a polishing iron, which was really a polishing iron because it was made with cast iron, and it was like this size or something. And I plan to polish it and to make it return it to its original glory. But is there any difference between using iron for the polishing irons and brass, or it's just a matter of preference, you know, and color of the metal. Is there any difference there?
Well, as far as the maker goes, there's a big difference because iron is much cheaper. But as far as the binder goes and the use of the tool goes, it's the same reason that I make brass band nippers instead of, you know, ones from iron. Iron often does a chemical reaction with the tannins on the leather and might mark the leather. So it's not always the case, but depending on the leather and depending on the iron, it might happen. And when it does, you can't really clean it up. It's sort of permanent. And that's why, although you can also make you know, decorative tools from iron as well, it's not the best thing to use on leather. So that's the main reason one would go for brass instead of iron.
Interesting. Yeah, because I never even thought about it, never got to consider that issue, and thanks a lot for telling us about that. Because obviously brass tools are really expensive. And for example, with the corner cutting jigs that with which my business sort of started, tool making business sort of started, and obviously I make them with plastic. But I saw that some other companies are selling similar brass tools. Usually much thinner brass corner cutting jigs, and they cost something like, I don't know, 70 euros, dollars, pounds, whatever, or something for a much thinner tool. Obviously, it's more stable because it's brass, but still. And when I, for some time, I ordered some of the corner cutting jigs to be cast from 3D models, and I ordered them in steel, and even then, each single one would cost something like I don't know, tens of euros, tens of pounds, and if I make the same tool with brass, or if I order the same tool with brass, price is usually something like five times higher or something. So it's almost prohibitive.
It's a big difference, and because what you're basically paying for is machining time. You're renting time on a machine that makes that tool. And the thing with brass is that brass is very affected by changes in global economy, as is copper. So since, for example, the war in Ukraine began, the prices in brass have skyrocketed. But you get certain, as I said, you get certain benefits. Brass is much friendlier to leather, and it's you know, it's something that has been tested for a very, very long time, and we know it works.
Dave Turnbull on YouTube comments also, never knew that about iron tools. Thanks, Dimitris. Well, that's I think there are quite a few viewers who are, you know, surprised and interested to learn about it.
Yeah, you have to keep that in mind, because I see a lot of people, for example, buying leather carving tools to use them to decorate leather bindings, and leather carving tools are basically iron stamps that you hit with a mallet to form impressions on leather after you've introduced moisture to it, you've dampened it. And the thing is that although you can heat these and use them on leather, first of all, they're not made, you know, you have to use something to hold them because they don't have a wooden handle. And the other thing is that eventually when the coating wears out, you will not be able to use them in this fashion. That's why bookbinders buy tools specifically made for bookbinding. There's a reason. I also wanted to comment, because you said about the huge polishing iron, that my polishing tool is rather small, it's big enough that you can do an
that was another question I wanted to ask, because you can see when the photo with your hand, it's quite small, and compared to this huge tool, it should be it obviously is absolutely different approach to using this tool.
Yeah, it's big enough that you can do, if you want to do an entire binding, it's big enough that you can do a normal sized book. Obviously, it's not ideal for very large bindings, but anything up to a normal medium size, you can use it to do the entire covers. But the main reason I wanted such a size is so that you can use it in the spaces between the spine bands, which can be thin. So you can do the spine as well, and you don't have a huge chunky tool to try to work around the bands and the spaces between them.
So we have another comment from Turgon92. I bought some leather carving tools and made them, in quotes, into stamping tools by wrapping leather on their handles. Not the best result, I gotta say. So, yeah.
Well, as I said, there's a reason. You can do a lot of things with a lot of unexpected tools. Let's say I remember I had a student who tried tooling with a fork, and it works. You know, it can work, but
tooling with a fork?
Yeah.
Was it a brass fork?
No.
Okay, but, interesting.
You know, as far as experimentation go, you can certainly do a lot of things. But if you wanna be consistent, efficient, and get the best result possible, then you need to have the proper tools, and that's true for any craft.
Pasha, switch to that short video with the pencil for us at least to have something moving on the bigger part of the screen. Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps I can disable sharing. It's just not looping this video.
Oh, it isn't looping. Okay, we don't have any more photos to show, right?
I think this is it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then let me make sure that everything looks fine everywhere. Yeah, okay. It's easier to turn it back when everything is already set up. So that was an interesting demonstration. And do we have more time to stay with us? Maybe to discuss some other things, maybe to answer some questions. And that's a prompt to our audience. If you have any questions, please ask them now before Dimitris leaves us. So.
Well, I have a question. As usual, I wanted to ask you how many iterations led to this wonderful tool, because this looks really complicated and so many things potentially to tweak. And knowing you probably did tweak quite a few things.
I did. I think there have been 5 iterations of the polishing tool. But to be perfectly honest, some of these were made for myself. So while they did grant me some know-how and some experience when it comes to making this specific tool, they weren't, when I made them throughout the years, I didn't really have in mind of selling it. And I think it's 5 or 6. I used to have a very big polishing iron in the past available, but that it seemed that people weren't really very interested in that, and that's also one of the reasons that I wanted to try a smaller scale, much smaller scale, and it seemed that there was much more positive response to this one.
Also, last time we discussed this, you mentioned that it takes as much, if not more, time to optimize the process of production as it takes to optimize the tool, because it's one thing to make one for yourself.
Exactly.
And what was it like this again? Because this tool looks very different to other things you make. Were there new processes you had to optimize in your flow?
In the polishing tools case, I'd say not as much, because it's compared to other tools, for example, the button nippers that have moving parts that everything must fit together and work smoothly. It's a simpler tool in regards to form. Still, how you make something is very important when you want to offer it to other people in your craft, and because it affects the result, the end result, and it also affects pricing a lot. I'd say that, you know, for the final version, figuring out how to make it took like 3 times more than actually making the prototype, 3 to 4 times more, figuring out the best way to make it.
We have a comment from Dave Turnbull. Did I miss the bent nippers? Well, this time we didn't show the bent nippers. Do you continue to sell them, or they're out of stock for now?
Yeah, sure. They're very successful.
They're available. We discussed them during one of our previous talks with Dimitris, so you can see them shown and discussed on our YouTube channel somewhere. Just search for Dimitris' name, and one of the videos will pop up. And also, I wanted to ask.
You can also see them in my tool page. If he
obviously
decides that he likes them.
Use the link in the description to get to the website of Dimitris, and you'll find them there. One of the things that we discussed previously is that you don't often have enough time to produce tools, and almost every year, at least that was my understanding, almost every year you have to consider whether you will continue making tools at all, or you have to focus on bookbinding. So what's your mental state at the moment?
That's a very good question, and that's a huge issue, because it's always trying to find the balance between the binding work and the tool making. I have basically 2 workshops in one, and that can be very disruptive for either process. Here I must say that, you know, I watched those posts about the printing farm that you're creating, and I was like, God, I wish I could do something like that, you know.
Yeah, but
I wish I could clone myself.
By the way, it's a good prompt, because I have another one being assembled right now, and it's a printer that will print with clay and paper pulp. So it's a huge experiment for me. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. It's I'm looking forward to seeing a video of all of them humming, you know, working.
Yeah, we have plans for that for the next week, probably, if I'll be able to, you know, to organize my workshop just a little bit, because I started to reorganize it, and I got some shelving units, metal shelves to go higher, to use the space, vertical space, and I started assembling them, and now everything is covered with the this rust dust, because they were rusty, and I had to sand them before painting them. So every surface in my workshop is now covered with rust dust, and I need to clean everything and move everything. But I have a week before our next live stream, so maybe
I've been nagging him to show off his new workshop for what, months now.
Yeah,
now it's rust.
I mean, show the rust as well. I mean, it's part of the process. I'd probably like that as well. Get an idea of how things are. Maybe even do a finger test across a wall or something, so we can see, the extent.
But
that's another that's an issue I have to contend with as well, because especially when I do tool making for an extended period of time, then brass dust gets everywhere. I remember it was, I don't know, 8 years ago or something, that I had to make so many tools at some point in a very short amount of time that I almost got brass poisoning in my throat. It coated the inside of my throat, and I could feel it when breathing. And there was basically nothing I could do about it. I just had to wait for my, for my body to absorb it. Not the best thing, not the best experience.
Yeah, don't recommend. I would recommend. Yeah.
No, not at all.
So we have a comment on Instagram. Well, firstly, Timothy, our friend from Vietnam, posted in the beginning just a test comment or something. But we have a comment from Gea Bound from Angea Kuna, one of our previous guests from Hawaii, and it's a great conflict books or tools. That's really interesting, and well, I can feel this conflict as well.
Choose your poison.
Yeah, choose your poison. I feel this conflict as well because well, 5 years ago I have chosen tools, and since then I think I haven't made a single book, maybe one or something like that, or repaired something just a little bit. But I just don't have time for books anymore, and that's unfortunate and makes me sad sometimes. But I want to return to making books, at least as a hobby. And I don't know when will it be possible. Yeah, sorry, Dimitris, you started to say something, and I interrupted as usual.
I've had an interest in seeing your journey in regards to this decision as well. It's a tough choice because tools, to be honest, tools are very, very efficient, and if you sell well, they provide. Whereas bindings, things are not as straightforward. You get down to make a binding, and then you realize that you have to test things, that you have to experiment. There are things that don't work, and you might end up spending much more time that you didn't plan for. This pushes things behind in your schedule. And I mainly do what is called design bindings. So that happens very often. Tools, it's easy to plan for tools, and they offer a sense of accomplishment. Let's say, you make a nice tool, you hold it in your hands before sending it to the buyer, and it's a much more easily attained sense of accomplishment. But the thing with tools is that, and they also scale. Tools scale. Bindings don't scale. I can only make so many bindings during a month, during a year. Tools, in theory, you can make more of if you have the proper equipment.
Yeah.
In which I'm trying to get better equipment. I've been trying to get my hands on a lathe for a long time now. That's what I do, in the dark hours of the night. I go online and watch, lathes on offer.
I know the feeling.
I mean, yeah.
I'm looking now for a kiln for ceramics, because now I have a 3D printer that prints ceramic clay, and I need a kiln. And to buy a new one, it's something like, at least 400 pounds. And if you want a good one, it will be 1,000 or something. So I'm looking used ones.
I understand, but it ultimately pays for itself. But the thing is, can I afford it? Can I afford it right now? It's many questions, and it's a commitment, because you have to get to know it. You have to invest time in learning how to use it in the most efficient way, in the proper way, in the most efficient way. But I hope that I won't have to rely exclusively on tools. I like making bindings. Ideally, I'd want a half-half, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
50-50 split. But I wouldn't want bindings to go away. I'd wish I could do more personal projects when it comes to binding. That's what I've been wanting for a long time, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's more easy to plan and try new tools than to do new binding projects.
Should we mention the thing we discussed recently with you? Would you like to mention this project of ours that's growing, or it's too early to talk about?
Well, I mean, if you want, sure.
I mean the binding project. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I'll read a couple of comments first, and then I'll return to that. And because we have some. So Michelle Tollfree, are there any tooling sets you'd suggest for a complete beginner? Just keep the question in mind, and you'll probably I'll read all the other comments and give you an opportunity to answer to that question. Dave Turnbull got his page open now. I'm constantly up for a workshop tour. Can never get enough inspiration. Well, maybe Dimitris will be also willing to give us another workshop tour because we already we did one, but maybe something had changed.
And a big one at that.
Yeah. It was a nice workshop tour. So you can also find it on our YouTube channel in the archive. Timothy Bindery, Dimitri's tools are wonderful. Highly recommend for all beginners and professionals. I also love brass tools, self-made, and it is a lot of inspiration from him. Understand how hard to make them.
Timothy makes some great tools as well. His work is really nice.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And by the way, it's call to all of our viewers. Please find Timothy Bindery on Instagram. I think it's easier to find the account on Instagram and check the recent posts. There are some really nice tools there, and not only tools, bindings as well. So returning to this question.
Should I answer Michelle's?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think was it what tools or what sets specifically?
Any tooling sets you'd suggest for a complete beginner?
Well, I have to make a shameless plug here, my starter set, for which I've talked in the beginning of this podcast. But if I had to make a recommendation, besides what tool sets I offer, I'd say go for stuff that is simple and that you will always be able to use. Don't go for the fancy stuff, because they have very specific, you might, for example, buy a tool set that has a specific combination of 18th century decorative tools. And you'll soon find that there's only so many bindings that you can use that on. Whereas if you go for simpler stuff, for lines, for dots, for maybe for decorative tools that are more simple, even if they are somewhat ornate, then you'll see that you'll be able to use them in a wide variety of bindings, and that will help you in the beginning.
Isn't it with tools like it is with tattoos? Once you got your first set, you're already thinking about the other, and like 2 years later, you don't know where to put.
You have your face covered as well.
Yes. And
that's
it's
a very
just
good analogy.
On nearly every workshop tour, we see these rows and rows and rows of tools, and yet you're saying that you could theoretically work for a long time with much smaller and more selective set.
Eventually, you will have to get more. I mean, you can never have enough decorative tools, tools for gilding. But that said, simple tools can get you a long way, a very long way. You can do so many things with them. That is not to say that you don't need or that you won't get more complex things. Keep also in mind, one thing you should keep in mind is that if you go for complex tools, they are difficult to get a clear impression. You need to be experienced to get a clear impression, especially if you're using genuine gold leaf from a tool that is very ornate. It's very difficult. So you have to work your way to that complexity, or else you'll get disappointing results, and you won't know what's the problem, what's the issue, why can't I get a good impression from this tool? Whereas it's very easy to to create a design based on dots, for example. Dots are the easiest thing to tool.
Yeah.
What was your first set? How did you start?
What was?
What was your first set of tools? Did you start
My
with
first set of tools?
dots and lines, or did you make the mistake of buying dots?
I actually have the very first tool I ever made, coincidentally, right here, and it's this. I don't know if you can see it. It's this little thing. It's actually just a line, basically. Nothing fancy. I've even written the date on it. It's 2009, and you can do an amazing amount of things with simple tools. But if I had to answer regarding my first set, I'd say it was mostly some shapes that I made. It was squares, triangles, dots, stuff like that.
Interesting. So you started with the tools you made yourself. You didn't use any, tools from other makers or something.
No. I have bought some tools from a local engraver, but there were very few. There were like 3 or 4 tools, and they were not a set. They were separate from each other. It was a roll and something else. I don't remember what it is, because I haven't. I've only used like 2 of them, and sparingly, very, very, in very few cases.
Are there any other tool makers who do tools for bookbinders remaining in Greece besides you, or what's the current state of things?
To my knowledge, and we're a relatively small community here, so I think I'd know. To my knowledge, I'm the only one in Greece doing this.
Okay, I see. So what else? Kat Wagner, greetings from Mexico. It's interesting to know the tools they present, although it's often difficult to get them on this side of the world. Yeah, shipping may be prohibitive, and delivery times, and sometimes packages get lost. That's just part of our life, unfortunately.
That's indeed an issue, and the other thing is that people, for example, in the U.S., the post office in the U.S. has that habit of leaving packages on the front porch, completely exposed, and I can't really wrap my head around that. Why would you do that? Keep them at the post office and note people to come and pick them up, or make sure that there's someone there to receive it in person.
Well, generally, it's considered to be safe. We have the same thing here in Windsor. Packages are often left on the porch. Even sometimes the packages for which you need a signature or something like that. Because as far as I understand,
did they get stolen?
Luckily for me, I didn't have any problems with that yet, and I hope I won't have any. But well, Windsor is not the cheapest place to live. So I guess that's one of the reasons.
That makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes they leave really expensive stuff on the porch, and even stuff that needs to be signed for. And since I understand that since COVID, they changed the rules that you don't really need to sign anything. They just make a photo, and it's supposed to be
Good enough.
good enough instead of the signature. But well, whatever. Yeah, sometimes it may be a bit frustrating. Sometimes it's good because you don't have to go to the post office. It really depends on the place where you live, and in more rural places, I guess it's pretty safe to leave anything.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So returning to this thing that I've mentioned. I decided some time ago that probably it would be interesting for iBookBinding to commission one or two bindings each year for vintage and antique books dedicated to book arts, bookbinding tutorials, or similar books on that alley, and to commission different binders from all over the world. Probably, firstly, binders who were guests of our podcasts previously or live stream. And one of the first people I sent a message to was Dimitris, and we had a bit of discussion about the format, about the style of book, about everything. And one of the things I wanted to have some tooling or some decoration on the binding, and I asked that if Dimitris can, if there will be some play on the logo of iBookBinding somewhere in the design, so it will be understandable that it's our project. And the book that was chosen is called The Book of Trades. It's 1807 edition, so a bit more than 200 years old. And as far as I understand, it is considered to be one of the first books that may be called bookbinding tutorials, because there are chapters dedicated to different crafts, including bookmaking, printing, and what was paper making or something. So there are at least three bookish crafts in this small book, and the format it's sort of palm size. I cannot show you the book because I already sent it to Dimitris. I don't have it anymore. So yeah, I hope Dimitris will be ready to meet with us live during the making process, maybe to discuss some of the aspects of making. We'll see. I don't want to push you, but if you can consider that, I think it will be fun for both Pavel and for me and for our audience as well.
I'd love that. I'd have to resolve the issue of having an internet connection at the binder, but as soon as I do that, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but anyway, it will happen next year, so you have some time before that.
True,
so that's one of the things. I have another binder with whom we already agreed about making a book. We didn't find a book for him to make, and I wouldn't announce his name yet because, well, I haven't discussed that with him. But so we have two candidates, and I probably will start planning some books and binders for 2025 next, because these are two projects for 2024.
It's a lovely project, and I like the inception behind it. Like in the movie, it's books on bookbinding, bound by binders for you who present bookbinding content for other binders. So it's a loop of sorts.
Yeah, so that should be fun. I'm really looking forward to it, and thank you, Dimitris, for agreeing to do it for us.
Pleasure.
So what else do we have? I think we'll start closing up just bit by bit. There are a couple of more questions there. Maybe if somebody decides to ask any more questions, we'll also forward them to Dimitris. But other than that, we discussed everything we wanted to discuss. We answered some questions. I think it went well, even with all the technical issues. We solved them. So yeah, it went well on that front as well. So what else do we have? Handflit. Is there a difference in what materials to use for cleaning brass and iron tools? That's a good question, and it's a question I'm invested in myself, because I need to clean and polish this polishing iron I have.
Well, it depends on the state, you know. Assuming that your tool is not in a terrible state, which means that it would require mechanical means of bringing it back to shape. Then usually a combination of sandpaper, polishing compound, and a strop should work well for most tools. A strop is a piece of leather, usually horse butt, which is very dense and very smooth, and you use it to give the tools their final polish. But usually you can do a lot with sandpaper, fine sandpaper, maybe some brushes, and it also depends on the tool. It's different if you want to return a polishing tool to a mirror finish compared to repolishing a stamping tool, you know, a decorative stamp that is ornate.
Would you consider using some mechanization tools like, I don't know, Dremel or something like that for polishing?
Yeah, it works, but they can be very aggressive. You have to know what bit to use on the Dremel and how much speed, the adjustment of speed, because you can very easily ruin a tool by doing that. You can create, you can remove a lot of material without realizing it.
Okay, so be careful if you want to test it and to try it. By the way, I don't know. Maybe it's a good opportunity for us as well. Among these tools I showed during the previous live stream, there were some wheels which has some minor dents on their on the outer surface, on the ridge. Is there any even reason to try to make them straight, or to work them out, or it's just only for decoration now? You mean to put it on a wall and look at it, and that's it?
It really depends on what kind of dent it is. I can't really say unless I see it, but for example, if it is a line roll, just a single line, and it has a dent somewhere, if the dent isn't very deep, you can, just thinking of a very rough way, someone could bring the tool back to a usable state without having specialized equipment, because that would normally require a lathe. You can perhaps plug it on an angle grinder and screw it on, and spin it. As long as it doesn't wobble, then you can sand and thin, the line back again into proper thickness, and remove the dent that way. But that's, as I said, it depends on the dent and it depends on the roll.
Yeah, I thought maybe also about, well, firstly, obviously, just hammering or straightening metal on cold may be an issue, because you can crack it, and there were some tools, at least some tools, that were a bit cracked there. So that's one of the issues as well, and they are obviously already not useful anymore. But maybe, well, they are not working order anyway, so I can experiment with them. Maybe heating, at least if it's a small dent, maybe heating the metal a bit and trying to straighten it in heated state. Maybe that's something can work. I don't know.
Maybe I'd probably recommend just just sanding it. If it's not a deep dent, then you can work with the roll even if it's not completely round. Even if it's but it depends, as I said, depends on the roll, because if the roll has an angle to it, then by sanding it you'll alter the thickness of the line.
Exactly.
It's a case-by-case basis.
Well, we'll see. I will definitely record my progress when I get to working with tools, and maybe everyone will see how I failed.
Or succeeded.
Yeah. Well, with some tools, I think I'll succeed. Some of them, but some of them are damaged a bit more. So anyway, again, they can be used just like for a display on the wall. That's also a fun thing to do. So we had lots of interesting questions today. Many thanks to our audience for staying with us and for asking questions and for their interest in tools that Dimitris makes. Thank you very much, Dimitris, for being with us today and for sharing the knowledge and teaching us something new today. That's really important.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I wanted to prepare like we did last time an end crawl with the names of our supporters on Patreon, but because I was trying to fix this stuff on with Instagram and other things, I wasn't able to do that. So I'll just say that we value your support very much, and if anybody else among our viewers would like to join us and join the crowd of our supporters on Patreon, please check the link in the description. Pledges start with only $1, £1, or €1 per month. So I hope that's not really much for you, unless you are already supporting like 50 other creators, which can be the case definitely for some people. So please consider that. We use this the money that we get from our supporters to pay either for editing of podcasts, of our older podcasts. We still have lots of material we need to publish, and it was really hard to return to the groove after the war, Russo-Ukrainian war started. We sort of absolutely lost our mindset, and we're still trying to return to it and to return to publishing of the old videos, and we promise to finally do that at some moment. But still, we need to pay for editing of these videos, and we need to pay to our researcher from time to time. So we use all the money you send us we put them to a good use, and even add some more. So that's that. Please check the links in the description to our social accounts, to our Discord channel. Subscribe to our TikTok. As I found out, to live stream on TikTok, that's another platform for us to add. To live stream on TikTok, you need to have at least 1,000 subscribers there, and we only have a bit more than 500 now. So please subscribe to us on TikTok. Well, it may be blocked in the US pretty soon, so it may be all in vain, but whatever. We'll see. Pasha, thanks again, as usual, for being with us and for, how you call it, поддержать меня, когда у меня все рушится.
Supporting when everything gets on fire.
Yeah.
You can rely on me to talk when everything is burning. Dimitris, thank you.
Thank you.
It's always so nice to listen to you when you talk about your tools. It's clearly an important part of your life, and they're so beautiful. I always think of Brancusi sculptures,
That's a high compliment. Thank you very much.
So yeah, I'll start stopping the streams at